Part 1. The hidden battle within, why light and darkness coexist in you. Have you ever felt like two different people live inside of you? One side wants to rise, to love, to forgive, to shine. The other whispers doubt, fear, anger, and craving. You try to be good, but shadows pull you back. You meditate, but intrusive thoughts come. You give love, but sometimes you still want to hurt, to hide, or to run. Why is that? Why can't we be just one thing, pure, enlightened, whole? The truth is, you are not broken. You are not failing. You are carrying a sacred paradox. You are both the storm and the stillness. You are both the flame and the ashes. You were never meant to be only light. You were meant to be whole. And wholeness means honoring both what glows and what haunts you. From the moment you were born, you entered a world of duality, day and night, birth and death, pain and pleasure. We learn quickly which behaviors are rewarded and which are punished. We begin to split ourselves. We show the kind, the gentle, the obedient, and we hide the wild, the angry, the grieving. But what happens to what we hide? It does not die. It becomes the unconscious, and the unconscious shapes everything.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
The darkness in you is not evil. It is unmetabolized experience. It is pain that had no witness. It is anger that was never allowed to speak. It is grief that had to smile too soon. It is the child who was told to be strong before they were ever held. That darkness is not your enemy. It is your teacher. If you listen to it, it will tell you where the light must go. If you ignore it, it will control you from the shadows. There is a reason why even the greatest saints, sages, and mystics speak of inner warfare. The Bhagavad Gita is not just about a battle, it is about the battle within. The Buddha sat under the Bodhi tree and faced Mara, not an external demon, but the manifestation of his own fear, temptation, and doubt. Jesus wept. Rumi grieved. These beings became light, not by denying their darkness, but by integrating it. What if the darkness inside you is not a curse, but a calling? Ask yourself, when was the last time you sat with your shadow? Not to fix it, but to listen to it. Most of us run from our pain. We read books, pray harder, seek more light, thinking it will burn away the parts of us we hate. But light does not destroy shadow. It reveals it. And once it is revealed, we are asked to love it, to hold it like a child who was never given a voice. You carry darkness because you carry memory, not just personal memory, but ancestral, collective, cellular memory. The fear of not being enough, the terror of abandonment, the ache of longing that was never met. These are not flaws. They are sacred burdens. They are the evidence that you have lived, that you have felt, that you have suffered and still survived. And they are the raw material from which transformation is born. You carry light because you carry potential. You dream, you create, you forgive, you hope when there is no reason to hope. That is light, that is divine. But light without depth becomes blindness, and darkness without light becomes despair. You were never meant to choose one. You were meant to hold both. In fact, the most awakened beings on this planet are not those who float above suffering, but those who can walk into the fire of their own pain and come out with compassion. The world will tell you to choose a side. Be good, be positive, be high vibe, and yes, we need hope. We need love. But false positivity is another form of repression. Real healing requires truth. And the truth is that your pain is not in the way of your path, it is your path. Your jealousy, your rage, your insecurity, they are not signs of failure. They are invitations. Each one asks, will you love me too? You cannot transcend what you have not yet embraced. You cannot forgive what you still fear. And you cannot love yourself only when you are light. You must also love yourself when you are dark, when you snap at someone you care about, when you fall into old patterns, when you feel small, lost, or unworthy. That's when your love is most needed. That's when your soul asks, will you stay? There is a quiet revolution that begins when you stop trying to be perfect and start trying to be whole. Wholeness is messy. It is contradictory. It is a dance between shadow and flame, but it is honest. It is real. And it is transformative. Because when you no longer fear your darkness, you no longer fear anyone else's. You become safe to others. You become medicine. Ask yourself this question and let it pierce you. What part of me have I exiled because I thought it made me unworthy of love? Sit with that. Let it speak. Maybe it's the part of you that's still angry at your parents. Maybe it's the part of you that wants to scream instead of meditate. Maybe it's the part of you that still feels like a child, begging to be seen. That part is sacred. It's not blocking your light, it is the reason you need it. You carry both light and darkness because you are here to heal a split that has haunted humanity for centuries. We've built religions that punish desire, cultures that shame vulnerability, systems that reward performance and punish presence. But the new path, the awakened path, is not about escaping the human experience. It is about incarnating fully into it. It is about remembering that God lives not just in heaven, but in your grief, in your longing, in your mess. You are not here to be clean. You are here to be clear. Clear about what you feel. Clear about what you need. Clear about what still hurts. Clarity brings healing. Clarity brings integration. And integration is what turns your pain into purpose, your wounds into wisdom, your shadow into strength. Imagine living in a world where everyone stopped hiding their darkness, where instead of pretending to be okay, we told the truth. We said, "I'm hurting today," without shame. We said, "I'm angry," and didn't fear rejection. We said, "I still carry wounds," and were met with kindness. That world begins with you, with the courage to be real, with the willingness to be seen not just in your light, but in your shadow. You carry both light and darkness because your soul came here to do sacred alchemy, to turn pain into peace, to turn rejection into acceptance, to turn fear into presence. And that alchemy doesn't happen by escaping yourself. It happens by sitting with yourself over and over, in the silence, in the discomfort, in the raw honesty of your own being. You are not just a body with a mind. You are a field of energy, a cathedral of memory, a river of emotion. And every time you reject a part of yourself, you dam that river. You block the flow. But when you open to all that you are, when you let the river run, you begin to heal. Not by force, not by fixing, but by allowing. You carry both light and darkness because you are here to love radically. Not just others, but yourself, especially the parts you were told are unlovable. That is the revolution. That is the awakening. And that is why it matters. Part 2. The shadow as sacred mirror, embracing the darkness within. Let's go deeper. If the light within you is your divine potential, the darkness is your sacred mirror. It is not there to shame you. It is there to reflect you. It shows you what still needs healing, what still longs to be seen, and what you've inherited from generations before you. The shadow is not the enemy of light. It is its partner. Without it, the light has no depth, no weight, no meaning. You may wonder, why do I keep repeating the same patterns? Why do I attract the same kind of pain, the same kind of relationships, the same moments of collapse? It is not because you are weak. It is not because you are broken. It is because the shadow will keep returning until it is met with love. The universe is not punishing you. It is inviting you. Life will echo your wounds until you decide to stop running and start listening. There is a reason why ancient traditions honored the darkness. In the dark, seeds are planted. In the dark, transformation brews. In the dark, we face ourselves. Indigenous cultures, mystery schools, and mystics alike knew that journeying into the underworld was not a curse, it was a rite of passage. You too are being called to descend, not to stay there, but to reclaim the parts of you that you left behind. Think of your shadow as a younger version of you who got stuck in time. Maybe it's the 5-year-old who was never comforted, the teenager who was shamed for their emotions, the adult who was told to toughen up. These versions of you didn't vanish, they live in your nervous system, in your reactions, in your self-sabotage. But here's the beauty, they are not frozen forever. They are waiting for you to return. What would happen if, instead of judging your jealousy, you asked what it was protecting? What if, instead of hiding your rage, you asked what it was grieving? What if, instead of numbing your fear, you held it like a child too scared to sleep? This is not weakness. This is the deepest form of courage. Because it is easy to bypass pain with positivity. It is harder to sit in the fire and say, I will not abandon myself again. We live in a world that teaches us to curate our image, not embody our truth. Social media rewards highlights and hides the hard nights. Even in spiritual circles, we are told to raise our vibration, to stay in the light, to transcend the ego. But in doing so, we often perform healing instead of living it. Real healing is not beautiful. It's raw. It's chaotic. It's sobbing at 2 a.m. with no explanation. It's shaking during breath work. It's confessing a truth you swore you'd hide forever. You carry both light and darkness because you are a full spectrum being. You are not here to be palatable. You are here to be whole. And wholeness means welcoming every part of you to the table, especially the ones you are told to lock away. You cannot cherry-pick your soul. You must bring all of it. Wholeness is not the absence of pain. It is the presence of truth. Now ask yourself this. What truth about yourself are you most afraid others will see? And deeper still, what truth are you still afraid to admit to yourself? These questions are not meant to shame. They are meant to free you. Because when you bring shadow into the light, it loses its power to control you. When you name it, it softens. When you love it, it transforms. There's a reason why trauma lives in secrecy and shame. It feeds on silence. But once spoken, once shared, once witnessed, it begins to dissolve. That is why we need each other. Healing doesn't happen in isolation. It happens in community, in presence, in being seen in both our light and our darkness and still being loved. You carry darkness because your body remembers. And sometimes, what it remembers is beyond your conscious mind. It remembers the tone of a voice that scared you, the look of disappointment, the slap that never landed but almost did, the love that was withheld, the room that felt empty even when it was full. These memories live in the body, and they become the stories we live until we decide to write new ones. You carry darkness because your body remembers. And sometimes, what it remembers is beyond your conscious mind. It remembers the tone of a voice that scared you, the look of disappointment, the slap that never landed but almost did, the love that was withheld, the room that felt empty even when it was full. These memories live in the body, and they become the stories we live until we decide to write new ones. We are not here to become pure. We are here to become real, and realness means contradiction. It means being a warrior and a poet, a lover and a fighter, a mystic and a mess. It means crying in the middle of your prayer. It means dancing while your heart is still breaking. It means choosing love even when anger feels easier. This is not spiritual confusion. This is spiritual maturity. You carry both light and darkness because you are a bridge between the seen and unseen, between heaven and earth, between what has been and what can be. And being a bridge is heavy work. It means you'll feel pulled in both directions. It means you'll doubt yourself. It means you'll fall, but it also means you'll rise. And when you rise, you lift others with you. Your shadow will not disappear overnight. It will show up in relationships, in triggers, in moments of silence, in dreams. But each time it appears, you have a choice. You can react from it, or you can respond to it. You can exile it, or you can embrace it. And every time you choose compassion over judgment, you reclaim a piece of your soul. This is the journey of integration, of becoming undivided, of walking through your own darkness with a lamp in your hand. not to destroy it, but to understand it, to see what it has been trying to teach you all along. Your anger might be the voice that finally sets a boundary. Your grief might be the key to your empathy. Your fear might be the doorway to your courage. What if your darkness is not the thing that disqualifies you from love, but the very thing that deepens your capacity to give it? What if your shadow isn't the opposite of your light, but the soil it grows from? What if your most painful wound is the exact place your purpose lies? You carry darkness because it is part of the human condition, but you carry light because it is part of the divine inheritance. And when the two meet, when humanity and divinity sit at the same table, you become something extraordinary. You become human, yes, but also holy. There is a sacredness in your shadow. It has survived every attempt to silence it. It has walked with you through every chapter of your life. It has shaped you in ways you may not yet understand. And now it asks to be honored, not idolized, not indulged, but seen, held, integrated. That is why this matters. Because as long as we reject our own darkness, we will reject it in others. We will judge. We will divide. We will destroy. But when we make peace with our own shadow, we stop needing enemies. We stop needing scapegoats. We stop needing to be better than, holier than, more awakened than anyone else. We simply become real. You carry both light and darkness because that is the sacred design. And when you stop fighting it, when you stop running from it, when you finally say, yes, I see you, and I'm not leaving, everything begins to change. Not instantly, not magically, but truthfully. And truth is the beginning of liberation. Part 3. The alchemy of wholeness, becoming the light that includes the dark. Wholeness is not something you become, it's something you remember. You were born whole. Before the world told you who to be, what to hide, what to shrink, you were a complete being. You laughed without shame. You cried without apology. You played, you imagined, you asked questions that made the stars jealous. But over time, the world carved you into pieces. Some parts were praised, others punished. And so you began to divide yourself, thinking that was the path to belonging. But belonging that comes at the cost of authenticity is not belonging, it's survival. And survival is not the same as living. That's why so many of us feel like we're living someone else's life. We wear masks that smile while our hearts ache. We perform light while our shadows scream. We achieve, we succeed, we impress, but we feel hollow. Why? Because you cannot feel full when you are only half present. The alchemy of wholeness begins when we stop choosing sides. When we stop asking, how do I get rid of my darkness? And start asking, how do I include it? This is not about indulging your pain or glorifying your wounds. It's about integrating them, transmuting them, seeing them not as blocks, but as bridges. Because what if your greatest suffering wasn't meant to break you, but to break you open? You cannot heal what you still fear, and you cannot become yourself by abandoning yourself. So we begin to turn toward what hurts, not to wallow in it, but to witness it, to sit with our grief like we would sit with a friend, to speak to our anger like we would to a child who's afraid, to touch the places inside of us that have not felt safe in years and say, I'm here now. I won't leave. This is the sacred work, the slow, honest, gritty path of integration. And it is not glamorous. It happens in quiet rooms, on long walks, in therapy sessions, in moments of silence after the storm. It happens when you choose to pause instead of react, when you choose to breathe instead of run, when you choose to feel instead of numb. This is what it means to become whole, not perfect, but present. There is no shortcut to this. No mantra, no crystal, no guru can do it for you. They can remind you, they can point the way, but the path must be walked by you. And every step you take toward your own truth becomes a light for someone else. Because when you heal, you don't just heal for yourself. You heal for your lineage. You heal for your children. You heal for the world that forgot how to feel. You carry both light and darkness because you were never meant to be pure. You are meant to be powerful. And true power does not come from domination, it comes from integration. It comes from knowing your capacity to harm and choosing not to. It comes from knowing your capacity to break and still choosing to love. That is the light that includes the dark. That is the fire that does not burn but illuminates. Ask yourself, who would I be if I stopped trying to be good and started trying to be whole? What would I say? Who would I forgive? What would I finally allow myself to feel? These are not small questions. They are doorways. And when you walk through them, you meet a version of yourself you've never met before, not because they didn't exist, but because you were too busy performing who you thought you had to be. The darkness in you is not a mistake. It is a map back to your truth. A map to the places where your light got buried. A map to the wisdom you carry in your bones. But you must be willing to read it, to trace it, to sit with its symbols and signs. And yes, it will be uncomfortable, but discomfort is the beginning of transformation. There is a kind of peace that only comes when you stop pretending, when you stop hiding your tears, when you stop apologizing for your scars, when you stop editing your story to make others comfortable. That peace is not the absence of pain, it is the presence of truth. And truth, no matter how messy, is always sacred. You might be wondering, what does it actually look like to live as someone who has embraced both their light and their darkness? It looks like presence. It looks like boundaries that are firm but kind. It looks like saying no without guilt and yes without fear. It looks like crying when you need to, laughing when you feel it, and resting when you're tired. It looks like making peace with not always being okay. It also looks like deeper, more meaningful connections. Because when you're no longer hiding parts of yourself, you invite others to do the same. You create space for realness, for intimacy, for healing that is mutual, not one-sided. And suddenly your relationships are no longer based on roles or expectations, but on truth. You stop needing to be needed. You start allowing yourself to be loved. To carry both light and darkness is to be human. But to embrace both is to be divine. This is the paradox we are here to embody. Not to escape our humanity, but to sanctify it. Not to ascend away from our pain, but to descend into it and rise with wisdom. That is the true spiritual path, not upward, but inward. And from that inward journey, the light radiates naturally. Not because we forced it, but because we became it. So what now? Where do we go from here? We begin again, always. We wake up. We breathe. We notice what we're feeling without judgment. We tend to our wounds like sacred gardens. We speak to ourselves like someone we are learning to love. We stop waiting to be perfect before we show up. We show up messy, honest, whole. This is the quiet revolution. It doesn't happen on stages or in temples. It happens inside of hearts. In kitchens, in cars, in late-night journal entries, in phone calls that say, "I'm not okay," in hugs that don't try to fix but simply hold, in the moment you look in the mirror and whisper, "I forgive you." You carry both light and darkness because you are here to bring heaven to earth, not as an idea, but as an embodiment, to live as someone who has made peace with their own chaos. To walk as someone who knows that their shadow is not a threat, but a companion. To speak as someone who has touched their own pain and transmuted it into presence. That is the alchemy of wholeness. That is the fire that refines without destroying. That is the light that includes the dark. And that is why it matters.